suspending open meeting law, we are conducting this meeting in a hybrid model, both virtually and in person. The Cemetery Committee is conducting this meeting May 11th, 2022 at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on the Zoom platform and in person, and in accordance with the town's policy directive and guideline issues on April 1st, 2020, and amended on May 7th. If you are recognized, please state your name and address. This meeting is being recorded. A1, I, Leo Carroll, hereby call this meeting to order. All committee votes will be taken via roll call. We will start with an attendance roll call of the committee members. When I announce your name, please reply. Brian Davidson.
Here.
Rebecca Purcell.
Here.
Rod Rydell.
Here.
Gary Susie has announced he'll be here in about 15 minutes, so we already have a quorum. If he comes, it's even better. Okay, A3, deed signing. I just signed the deeds for Tish, and they're ready to go. A4, review of calendar, future proposed meeting dates. The next meeting date is June 1st, 2022, unless anyone has an issue with that. No, June 1st.
June 1st?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would just also note that we discussed at the last meeting possibly taking a month or two off in the summertime. That's, I believe that Public Works Commission's meeting this evening talking about their summer schedule. I believe that they're intending to do a similar setup. And then I also remind folks that I think we need at the next meeting to elect a new chair and vice chair. And I'm gonna have to check term limits to see. I'll check with the town clerk's office to see if anyone's term is up, and if we have any interest in whoever that might be on staying, for a subsequent term as well. So I will follow up on that.
If there are no going once, going twice, going third, no one objects to June 1st, we're going to do it. All right. Approval of meeting minutes from April 6, 2022. We will take this item as the minutes are still being reviewed by staff. We will present those for approval at the June meeting. So we dodged another opportunity to vote. Okay, discussion, possible action items on agenda. CPW staff report, operations, maintenance updates. Aaron, you're on. Okay.
Thank you, Leo. Aaron McCloskey, Highway and Ground Superintendent. Good evening, everyone. A couple things that are coming up of note. This Saturday, there will be an event at the cemetery at Sleepy Hollow. The Maynard Elks Lodge is doing their annual installation of flags on the veteran lots. They will be kind of gathering around 10 o'clock at the cemetery supervisor's office. It's an open event to anyone who wishes to kind of attend. Sponsored by that group. Tish will be there. I'll be there typically, and should be a good turnout. The last couple of years, it's been a smaller group, I think, because of COVID. So we expect a kind of a larger turnout this year. And that is again Saturday 10. If anybody's interested in attending and you basically will be handed a group of American flags, and then you kind of walk around throughout the cemetery. Tish has already put out ahead of the meeting or ahead of that event all of the veteran markers. And so you just look for any of the markers and you install a flag in the veteran markers for all of those lots. Einstein's, the town's landscape contractor for cemetery maintenance, has finished their spring cleanup and is moving on to seasonal maintenance under the direction of the cemetery supervisor Tish Hawkins, and will continue on throughout the season. Tish and the crew have finished up cleaning up of the old hill Main Street burial grounds. That was completed ahead of the Patriots Day celebrations and events that took place in the town of Concord last month. New flags were installed on the flagpoles throughout the cemetery, And obviously this month, weekend after next is Memorial Day. We expect a large turnout and a number of visitors throughout the cemetery over the next couple of weeks ahead of and during that holiday. The Tidewater Planting, which was a donation that was given to what we refer to as the Tyler Planting, it's Tyler family, donated subsequent amount of funding for some landscaping and some plant installations in Sleepy Hollow. The families work closely with Tish Hopkins and Eric Shaw, the assistant superintendent, on planning developing the design for that. And the crew has been working hard over the last week and two to install those, and they actually completed that today. So it's a nice looking area if anybody wants to head down and take a look at that area. A lot of great work went into that.
Aaron, one question. Where is the planting? What location in the cemetery?
It's down past the Melvin, kind of what's the end of that road, Tish?
It's at the intersection of Ripley Ave and Bartlett Ave in the cemetery behind Martin Road.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually saw them doing it today. It came out very good. It's down by Cat's Pond.
Over by the, basically, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else, Aaron?
A couple things, Leo. The next meeting, we're gonna need to we'll have an agenda item. We're gonna need to name the pathway in the knoll area where the new mausoleum lots have been laid out. We talked at a few meetings ago. It was presented a preliminary plan. Family wishes to purchase one of the mausoleum lots. We've had a number of discussions with their representatives and moving forward with preparing essentially a memorandum of understanding between the town and the family to purchase the lot and then subsequently construct the mausoleum. Prior to doing the having an actual sale, we need to name that pathway. So this is just a kind of a notice that the next meeting we'll have that on the agenda to name that pathway. We'll provide some suggestions for the cemetery committee to review and to vote on. They're in line with historical kind of naming of the pathways in the cemetery. We did for lot sales, there's 2 full burials and 5 cremations that took place in 1 single grave lot. 1 cremation lot were sold last month. And we are still up on the headstone restoration project. We're working on soliciting bids for this construction season. So we hope to have some bids in hand, something awarded before the end of the fiscal year. So contractor can get to work and get the restoration underway for this year. And that's all I have. Tish, I don't know, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Thank you.
you.
I'd like to say that Einstein did a great job. It looks very nice over there. And this was a hard winter with all the branches coming down in certain spots. So kudos to them. Okay, lot repurchase, item D2, Stowe family will need a motion and a second and a vote to agree to the lot repurchase.
Okay, the children of the original purchasers of the Stowe lot, a 4-grave lot on 27 Stowe Avenue, want to sell back 3 of the graves, unused graves, and just retain the 1 grave that's been occupied. They would be selling them back for half of our current rate, $1,100 for each of the single graves, so a total of $3,300.
So does anyone want to make a, well, do we want to have a discussion on this? I don't really see the need for it, but let me ask one thing though. When they sell it back to town, then anyone can buy that?
Somebody from our list that's waiting
Okay.
for a lot in old section.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was you buried in front of a place that's got the Stowe name on it, on a stone, or?
They have a flat stone on the single grave that they still own.
Yeah.
They don't have any other stones.
Yeah. All right, so who wants to make a motion to, well, someone make a motion. Brian, I see you looking.
Oh,
at you.
yeah, I'm all over that, Leo. Yeah, fantastic. So I'd like to make a motion that we accept the repurchase request from the Stowe family for 3 lots.
Second, everybody got it?
Second.
Okay. With that being said, we'll accept the Stowe family sale of lots. Okay, item.
Leo,
D-
Oh, we have to do a
Leo,
vote,
we need to
Leo.
vote.
Oh, gosh. Here, I think I'm Putin and I'm not. Okay, so let's go through this thing now. Brian Davidson, how do you vote?
Yay, yay, yes.
Rebecca Purcell, how you vote?
Yay.
Yeah. Rod Rydell.
Yay.
Jerry Susie's not here, but Leo Carroll, yay. So looks like they got it. Okay, item D3, permission for use of photos from the Friends of the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery. Discussion, and then we'll need a motion and a second for a vote. So what's this all about?
That's me.
Oh.
That's the ambassador.
How are you? I'm Beth Van Buser for Granite Coast Road. And I'm gonna give the breakfast talk this year for the fundraiser for, and my name's spelled wrong in there. Yeah, for that. The Friends of the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery.
Yeah.
And I brought my laptop with me, but I gave the secretary a flash drive that had
Oh,
all the pictures on it.
yeah.
So I can pull up my.
I can share my screen. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So Justine, you gonna put it up?
Yeah. Just give me 1 second.
But what I did was all the photos that are full of the whole gravestones, all of them are available right now on Find a Grave. I didn't pick any stones that weren't already out on the internet somewhere. Because I thought about it for some of the youngest people that were buried, but they're really noticeable, like, and they aren't on the internet anywhere.
Yeah.
So why would I invite somebody to figure something
Yeah.
out?
I guess the question is why do we need to discuss this if these are already out in the public domain?
Because there's a Massachusetts general law that says I should talk to you.
Oh, okay, all right.
We didn't give permission for it to be on Find a Grave. No, nobody's ever
Yeah,
given
no one's ever
permission. Find a Grave is just its own little
Yeah.
entity. They just kind of, yeah, they're,
All right, and what's the penalty if you don't have permission?
She's not nice to me anymore.
yeah, that's pretty much it.
Impossible.
No, there actually
There
is
might
a
be
fine.
something,
There's
yeah.
some kind of fine. I don't know what the fine
Yeah, I
is. It's
know.
a nominal fee.
And if you look, you'll find it's never been imposed.
It's
But that's
correct, correct.
That's
Neither nor
neither
there.
here nor there.
Yeah.
I'm doing my due diligence. by
God
coming
bless
to
you, yeah. Solid citizen, okay, take it away.
All right, so those are the names, and then there should be one with, there's like 41 pages of images. Yeah.
So just tell me when to scroll and I will continue.
So it's the front row,
Yeah.
but the front row ones are always having the pictures taken. Keep going. If anybody wants to know more, but you'll have to come to the breakfast talk for really all the information, just so you know.
It's just a preview.
It's a
It's
preview,
just a
yeah.
teaser.
You're marketing it.
But yeah, so like there's a death's head, there's your, you know, chair
Oh
of
my
wings.
gosh.
Yeah,
Close up of the chair of wings, yeah. And then we have, oh yeah, there's an error, there's lots of errors. I love doing this tour with kids because they're at the right height to see
Oh, so
everything.
Yeah.
And they find more errors than we ever will.
yeah. That's great.
And then that's the Merrimack Valley style. It's actually only in a very certain area of Massachusetts.
Yeah.
And that's the father, he did that one. And then there's one his son did. So we have both the father and the son here.
And where's the Holy Ghost?
Not here. One moment.
Well, we don't know.
Yeah.
Let's not get into that. And then willows and urns, and then you have all of your different iconography you're gonna see. And based on what you see, you can kind of date the stone, which is what the tour itself does. It's like we try to teach people how to date stones. And as you meander through the cemetery, you talk about certain stones.
Yeah.
And here it's more or less, oh yeah, there's an error. There's literally just an E for no reason. And then. There's an error on this one. You always put up with the iconography, tell you what kind of stone is it, and then you focus on what the rest of the text tells you. Because if you think about it, from 16, 500 pounds to 1833, 20, so close. There are only about 713 gravestones. in 200 years.
Yeah,
So there's a lot more bodies here than gravestones. So
Oh,
what
yeah.
does it tell? Like, so it's also like a social thing, right?
Yeah.
In history and all. So her last name is spelled right in one spot and wrong in the next spot.
sounds like a
Seriously,
lawsuit
it was
against.
already spelled right.
Yeah.
Oh, look at it, they got little R in
They
there.
do.
Yeah.
If anyone remembers typing and like having to correct things,
Yeah.
it's literally a little parrot and they stick letters in. So this is a great, it's so much fun to look at them. It's really-
Yeah, that one, when you're standing on Halloween night, you look up there, it looks like a
Oh,
ghost.
yeah.
Yeah,
Look at that, oh my goodness.
There, scroll faster if you want. I mean, that's really, this is really what it is. So it's like show a big one, but then you focus in on what the stone is telling you.
yeah.
I don't necessarily, I'm not gonna talk about anybody's families or anything like that. Not that I know of.
That's a good question.
Yes, exactly. And I'm sure somebody in the audience will have more information than I will.
Yeah.
No, I'm sure they will.
They
They might think that.
Yeah.
There's a lot, I'm sorry. But here's the thing, so if you have a lot, then if it gets shorter, it's fine, right? Because
Yeah.
there's no way, it's only a 45-minute talk. There's no
Yeah.
way I can do everything.
Now, let me ask you about that one. Can you go back, Justine, can you go back for a second? Why, it's my understanding there's a flat one.
The table monuments.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that no one was buried under them.
Oh, he's under that one.
Oh, he is, okay,
I know
well,
he is.
it appears I've been misinformed.
But, well,
Okay,
not all of them though. William Emerson is not under it.
yeah,
He's in Vermont. I'm in
Okay.
history-ish.
yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Can you imagine the kerfuffle in the family though, all the typos they paid for the
Yeah.
stone?
If nobody starts living,
Oh,
who's gonna fix it? Who's
Yeah.
gonna fix it?
oh,
Because there are some where they have fixed them. I have some of that too. Like you can tell they kind of rub stuff out. We have it all. Like that. You see, they fixed the word great, like they fixed part of that.
Oh,
Something I've never
yes.
heard.
Yeah.
So yeah, so if somebody's alive and you have money, you're getting it fixed.
Yeah,
Not necessarily though. It's seriously whole words.
yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, that's a beauty.
So these ones, and never forget all this if you go to the talk. Forget all this by the time you go to the breakfast.
Yeah,
But the ones that were, had the coat of arms, they were pink, they were colored. And people would come from miles and miles around, come to we've had tourism for a long time. And they would come here and look at the painted tombstones.
Huh.
So it doesn't say what colors they were painted, but it'd be really cool to like have a mock-up or something.
yeah.
Wow.
6.
So
Interesting.
Ansel Adams came and took pictures too of our.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Tell Alex where it comes. That's what it was.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
It is,
Al-
you're
You know
right.
Alex, yeah, yeah.
I emailed it. There's just a lot of pictures of various things people.
I have a
So what's the significance of the weeping willow?
So as your religion changes, your economy changes.
Yeah,
So as we, Puritans, life is terrible, death is terrible, more or less everything's terrible.
yeah,
And then you progress, and by the time you get to the newer religion, your body's in the urn, and the weeping willow is kind of representing the weeping part, but also your spirit's gonna go away, right?
Oh.
Your body might stay here, but they know the
Yeah.
spirit doesn't stay.
that's not a native, that's not a tree. It's been around for a while, I was kind of good.
Almost done.
Sorry. This is maybe leaving a lot.
That's it.
Last one?
That was the last one.
Okay, well, does anyone want to ask any questions?
Yes, Leo Rod Rydell. Quick question. I noticed there was a grave with the Hoare name. Leo, you've told me about the fellow who in that family who's come and renovated some of the grave sites. Is there, you think there's any issue with him over that, over using one of those grave stones from his family?
I think so. Alex, he's like a greeter sometimes in the cemetery. He waits for people to get out and look around. He gives a little, he's out in the parking lot talking.
Okay, perfect. Just wanted to, that was the only name I recognized that might have a contemporary relative.
Out of his own pocket, he rearranged, did the stones up and got them leveled and everything. That was a big job.
Yep, okay. No other questions. Thank you.
Does someone want to put a motion in place to accept this?
Yeah,
So
I'll do the,
I think you're gonna want to do one motion, but you want to include both. You can do one motion, but you want to include both permits because there's the breakfast fundraiser for Friends of Sleepy Hollow, and there's also the annual conference in-person presentation.
Because I talk fast, it's only 25-minute talk, but I just wanted to practice kind of first, but I wouldn't use more or less the conference. I'm talking about how, say, American Gravestone Studies,
Yeah.
how you can use their resources to talk about your cemeteries and do that. So it would be maybe half a dozen photos, and it doesn't have to be a whole stone if y'all are uncomfortable with that. I can just do half the stone.
So you can do it right now?
No, I'm not doing it right now.
Okay, I mean, you make it, the chairman's lost at this point. So what are we gonna do, Justine? We're not gonna vote on this now. We're gonna lump two together?
Well, we're gonna vote them both together at the same time. So you've already looked at all of the pictures, I believe, Beth, am I correct with that?
Yes, those are all the pictures. No other ones right now.
Okay, so we're not gonna vote on that, but we're gonna combine another item, which is,
No, so if Rod wants to make a motion to accept both permits, then you can do that.
all right, then I will make a motion for the cemetery committee to accept both permit applications from the Friends of Sleepy Hollow for both their fundraising event as well as the use of the photographs that we've reviewed at this meeting.
we have a second.
Second.
Okay. Now, let's have a roll call.
Oh, yeah.
Right, for both items. Brian Davidson,
Aye.
Rebecca Purcell. Rod Rydell,
Aye.
and welcome Jerry Susie. What's your vote?
Aye.
Leo Carroll, aye. Won by a landslide, yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, now am I missing something here? Cemetery fine preview.
That's not me.
Okay.
But I
Cemetery
want to hear about
fine,
this.
yeah. Is that Tish? Is that you?
That is not,
Yes, Leo, I'll give an overview on that. So last year we had funded a project to work with the company Cemetery Find. Essentially, they had two kind of main focuses. One was to digitize all of our records. Obviously, the lot cards and the files that are in the cemetery supervisor's office go back many years. It's a lot of, some would consider, historical information and very important documentation. And believe it or not, there was no backups. It was all hard copies locked in a safe. And unlike just like in a lot of other cemeteries in Massachusetts, Sleepy Hollow was not unique in just having just the original hard copies. So the cemetery committee had prioritized it as a project to digitize those records. So not only are we able to have backup electronic files that are stored in the cloud that are owned by the town and accessible anytime to staff for our operations and as a resource to us, but the platform that we're using, Cemetery Find, can also be accessed by the public. And they won't be able to see everything. For example, the details of necessarily like maybe one's lot card that might have some information that is not necessarily public information, but would be able to have basic information. Whereas Sleepy Hollow is a destination for some lots, people from all over the world to come and visit. lots of historical figures. Or, there might be, coming to visit relatives that they're trying to locate. We have now a mechanism that the public can go on anytime to the website and search for a name and see all of the matches. And then not only find the name with the information and the date of interment, but also be able to have a map and find and locate the actual lot in a cemetery. So this is a project that we've been working on for over a year now. I commend Tish and countless hours working with the vendors at Cemetery Find, as well as, Justine and Eric Shaw, for all the time and effort put into this project. So we're still working on kind of fine tuning the last details before we open up the public portal. But I wanted to give the committee here in the public kind of a preview of what that's going to look like and some of the features that they can expect to see. Priority for us was to make it as user-friendly and easy to access as possible. So it doesn't require a whole lot of computer skills, if you will, to be able to use the website. It's not overly complicated, doesn't require special credentials or login, and it can be accessed from a number of platforms such as a mobile device or a desktop computer. So I will we have a couple of slides here, and essentially they're screenshots that I'll go through and kind of describe what we're looking at on each page. So the first page we're calling here the landing page. So there will be a link on the town's website under the cemetery page that'll take you to the Cemetery Find website. The Cemetery Find website will look like this. It'll have, the name of the cemetery across the top and a banner with the town seal. So it's obvious that you're on the town of Concord's Cemetery Find page, because there are a number of municipalities within the Commonwealth and other private and public cemeteries throughout the country that use this platform. So each cemetery has their own landing page. So this will be ours. It'll have some basic information that we also include on the town website, such as rules and regulations, cemetery information, maybe some general information that folks might be looking for. So it's kind of a, I don't say one-stop shop, but it will have some information that's not just the lot information. Also a way of how do you contact us if you have questions. Tish being the cemetery supervisor, she's the primary contact for cemetery operations and questions, and that information will be listed on here. There's also some photos, and we can kind of customize it. We can update the photo here. We have the photo of the Melvin, and we put in a nice new photo when the bollards are installed. They were donated by the friends. But yeah, that's the photo kind of how we have it as of right now. From there, you can, on the page right there, you can scroll. Can you go back one slide up, please? On the middle right there, there's a little hand. There's a search cemetery records. So if you were to click that link, that takes you to the next page. So you're going to have this page right here kind of shows, and we just split the screen up so you can kind of see as you scroll through, because we did some screenshots here. But what the photo on the left essentially that you're looking at is the top of the page. It's the where you can plug in the names. So in here we typed in the last name Emerson, locations at Concord, Sleepy Hollow, and if you click search, the photo kind of on the right shows, it'll drop down and it'll list all of the names of anyone who is deceased and interred that has the last name of Emerson. And you can see Ralph Waldo right there, and you can see the lot and the burial ID and some more information. Now, if you could go to the next slide, please. So some of the information that we'll be able to see, we as in staff, we'll be able to click on that, and then we'll be able to view the lot card. Some of the information that, like I said, won't be available to the public, but is available to staff to see, okay, on that, Emerson lot, who's interred, what are the dates, what are the details, fees paid, etc. Who's the next of kin, and who does the ownership go to, things of that nature. So we're able to see that kind of all real time, one-stop shop. If we need to print it off, we can print it off, zoom into it. If we need to edit it, print it off, edit it, and rescan it in, we can do that. So it's very helpful for us. Next slide, please. Thank you. So then also, on the public side, anybody that were to log, go to the page, type in Emerson, hit search, you're going to see the names drop down. And there's going to be a couple of icons. There's going to be a map it, and then where that arrow is pointing to. And then there is a map it under navigation. And then you can see there's burial location. So lot 31, path, Sleepy Hollow path, and it says grave 3, right? Lot number 31. To most people, that really doesn't mean a whole lot. To Tish knows exactly where that is, obviously, but for most folks that are coming to the cemetery, they're not going to know where that is or how to get there. But they can click one of those two buttons that say map it under map or navigation, and then it'll bring up directions to how to get to that lot. On the left-hand side, so the map it, if you click map it, it'll give you that graphic on the left. So you can see that there's essentially, it's almost like GIS where there's overlays of different layers. So this satellite imagery, it comes from, I believe, I don't know if it's Google, but there's satellite imagery there. It shows an overlay of the path. Excuse me.
Hey, Aaron, can I break in just for a second? Ask a question?
It looks like he had to mute himself for 1 second, but you
Okay.
can, maybe Tish and I can answer.
Yeah, on the left-hand picture, the gray overlay, those are the privately owned lots buried in. Can I make the assumption that all the rest of that area is owned by the town?
Yes.
And we can plant trees there?
Sometimes they are.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
great,
They
all
might
right.
be trees, they might be a water.
Yeah,
main,
I
they
mean,
might
that's
be
my main
something not
interest, is
usable.
trying,
Yeah.
you can't plant trees on someone's lot that they own, so, my interest is trying to find places where we can put some new trees, it's not as easy as you think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some are unsold lots that may be available.
Oh,
You'd have to check,
yeah,
obviously, but yeah, a lot of it might be open space.
yeah, and have you been on this yet? Is it easy to get to, or?
Yeah, it will be. Oh, yeah.
Can we get at it in a pre-public? I mean, is it on the internet right now?
No.
No, okay,
Not yet.
yeah, I'd like to get in.
Another month or so, Leo.
Huh?
Another month or so.
Well, I'm gonna come down to your office one of these mornings and see
Maybe.
if you can pull it up, yeah.
Yeah, I can.
All right, great.
All right, so I apologize for that interruption. But so you can see here on the left-hand side, the map at the overlay, you can see where the lot is located there. And on the right-hand side, there's the navigate button, shows you if you were to be at that, the front entrance gate of Sleepy Hollow, there's a blue navigation wayfinding line. It takes you right to that lot, where the red pin is the point of interest of the lot that you've selected to map it to, or to navigate it to. So it's very user-friendly. Once you get onto either of these two graphics, you can zoom in and zoom out and look at other lots, select other lots and get information. So I think it's a nice tool. We're excited to have it and to open it up to the public for use, and hopefully people find a benefit. I think we definitely will as staff. So thank you.
What was that? Okay. And does anyone have questions for Aaron? No? Aaron, I think it looks great from what I've seen. This is gonna help us out a lot, I believe. I did have one question though, and I'm sure there's an answer to it. Is there a mechanism, if you find a mistake, to be able to correct that? And if so, is it our IT people that do it, or do we have a maintenance contract with the Find the Cemetery?
We do have a maintenance contract with them. It's an annual contract, and if we find mistakes, we work with them to correct them. It depends on the level of mistakes, if you will. So right now, the reason, we're still going through the data and cleaning up the data and cleaning up the mapping to make sure it's as accurate as possible before we release it to the public. You know, obviously it's not going to be 100% perfect because there's a lot of very old information, you know, and there are some errors, whether they're human errors or computer errors or whatever that might be. But we're having all different sets of eyes look at this information and try to clean it up. I commend Tish on her tireless efforts and hours spent on making sure the information is accurate as possible. You know, she takes a lot of pride in what she does, and we want to make sure that the information that we're providing that represents, you know, our work as a team is as accurate as possible before it's sent out. So that's why it isn't out yet. We're going through all of the information and cleaning up as much as we can before we send it out to the public. But if there is an issue, you know, once we do release it, we need to make corrections. Depending on what that correction is, most likely it's going to be the cemetery find the vendor that makes the final edits. But if it's a mapping or overlay issue or something, maybe with CAD, one of our engineers might be involved as well.
And we, in the future, Tish or whoever will put the new people in the cemetery in, so.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, this is great. I think
Yeah, we will be updating. We'll be updating the information as we sell lots and, you know, and individuals are entered. The Tish will be real-time updating the website.
Yeah.
The database.
Now, I used to be a contractor, so on something like this, you always want to get the transaction fees in the future, but I guess that's not going to happen if we enter the stuff in ourselves. So that's good. That's really great. I'm impressed. Does anyone else have any comments they want to make on this?
Because I just had one question, Leah. What about open lots? Would it reflect like lots on the knoll that are open, or do you have to type a name in to kind of get any kind of research results?
I think a lot. Sorry, Tish, go ahead.
The open lots will show as green.
As green?
Yeah.
Okay, kind of like picking your seat on an airplane. You get the thing you're looking for.
Yeah. Well, it's a tremendous resource, and just, you know, just as a townsperson, thank you guys so much for doing this project. It's really, I think, a valuable resource for people and will be well used. So just really appreciate all the time that people put into it.
Great. So no other comments on this. We do not need to take a vote, so we'll move on to item D5, perpetual care abatement, Nolan family. Discussion, and then we'll need a motion and a second for a vote.
So I'm going, these are the
The
Nolans.
Nolans, okay.
What I'm gonna do first is provide a little history to the committee
Oh,
about
okay.
perpetual care and the process that was used over the years, so you understand where we're at, and then I can give you some more specific information, and then the Nolans can present their case. So basically, every lot in the cemetery, when first sold, going back to the 1800s, was sold at a rate, and then there was an annual care fee that was paid. Started out at $1 a year long ago.
Yeah.
And gradually over the years went up, obviously, to, you know, $15 a year, $25 a year, whatever. So those payments were made on all the lots. In 1977, or mid-70s, a number of the lots were still being paid for. Some people had also made voluntary contributions to the perpetual care account in order to cover their lot in perpetuity. That was voluntary. People left some arbitrary amount to the town in their will sometimes, or just wrote a check to cover themselves forever. Other people continued to pay the annual care. In the 70s, I think the billing process just got to be too much. So in the 70s, they sent one final bill to people. So many people weren't paying at that point. Had either moved away or died or whatever, just couldn't be located. So they sent one final bill saying, for whatever size lot you have, pay us $200, and that's it, you're done. So a lot of people did make that $200 payment, and they're paid for. Cut to a few years later, over 300 lots in the cemetery still have money due on them. It's still a past-due perpetual care amount that was just never paid for whatever reason. And in every case, it's a different situation. The cemetery, though, still allowed interments to happen. in the lots that weren't paid for, and they still allowed stones to be set in the lots that weren't paid for. In the early 1980s, the cemetery committee decided that in order for an interment to happen in a lot or a headstone to be placed on that lot, the perpetual care fees needed to be paid. For a short time, you could pay for at the time, the perpetual care fee that had to be paid was the perpetual care amount that was current, whatever we were currently charging for all usable graves. So for instance, in a 10 grave lot, if 6 graves were occupied, 4 graves would need to be paid for. The committees at that time did allow that people could pay for the 1 grave being used. So you could pay the perpetual care amount for the 1 grave that was being requested to use, and you didn't have to pay for the other 3. You could use that 1, you could put a headstone on that grave for that person and move on. A couple years later, the committee decided that the entire lot needed to be paid for before any interments could happen in a lot and before any headstones could happen in a lot. For a short time, they actually required that the perpetual care fees for the entire lot be paid. So in that same instance, in a 10 grave lot, 6 graves had been used, 4 graves were unoccupied. They were charging the entire amount for all the graves, even the occupied graves. Nobody paid for it then. A couple people actually chose to purchase lots in a newer section because it was cheaper than paying the past year perpetual care amount on such a large family lot. So the committee then went back to just paying for the graves that are still usable and not the ones that were already occupied. So that said, in this instance, the Nolan lot was purchased in 1928. The perpetual care fees were paid until 1934, which at the time was $2 a year. The last payment was made in October of 1934. Interments were allowed in 1957, 1971, and 1974. It's a 6 grave lot. 2 graves are still left available for use, 4 are occupied. The money due on this lot for those 2 usable graves would be the current rate, which is $1,000 per grave in this section. So $2,000 would be due on this lot. This has happened probably since I've been here, probably 20 to 25 times. And in each instance, the family has paid the past due amount. Any questions?
So what do we?
So hearing none, the Nolans are here
Okay,
to
okay,
request
all
an abatement.
Okay.
This is Sandy and Dave Nolan.
So anyhow, I'm Dave Nolan, my wife Sandy. We're both Concord residents in the past. We've moved to Westminster now. My father was a police officer in Concord and worked right at the
I'll be putting his
part of the
flag out
town
tomorrow.
hall.
Yeah, yep.
And first of all, we can't understand how the cemetery committee lost track of him. He was well known in the town for years and years. He retired in 1965, I think. And anyhow, where am I here?
Well, one of the points that we were thinking of, I mean, we're both Concord people, was that the town hall, the billing had to be done through the town hall. I mean, I'm thinking the 20s and 30s, where else would they do it? Would be through the town hall. The police station that he was in was part of the town hall. You know, so therefore, if I had a bill and Susie McGee typed out my bill and said, gee, you haven't paid your bill, I'd kind of walk over or see him someplace. He directed traffic in the center of town for years in front of old Concord people.
It was a police
Anderson-
box, right?
Anderson
at Walden
Place,
Street?
yeah, he was the person that was directing the traffic. Everybody knew him. In 1925, the town had a population of over 7,000 people. Everybody knew him. So you've got a problem with a bill or somebody didn't get anything. And I wrote out a timeline, and you've pretty much covered my timeline, but I thought it would be helpful to knowing these, that with his first wife and the cost of him buying the lot cost $50 at the time. And he buried his first wife after childbirth. She died during childbirth. And the bills for perpetual care were being sent to 499 Main Street in Concord. We had to research and figure out who lived at 499 Main Street for the bill. And it was May, who was his first wife, that was buried up in Sleepy Hollow Cemetery. That's where the bill was going. Eventually, somebody knew him and gave him the bills, obviously, because over the period of years, those bills, there was a total of $10, $1 for this year, $2 for that year, $3 for the other year, was paid up to a total, I believe, of $10. Right, Trish? This is what I was getting from Patricia from, I don't know, was it Patricia or Trish? Both, okay. And so I just
So
added.
they, in the meantime, had moved to Off Harrington Avenue, West Concord.
Yeah.
And evidently the bills were going there
But,
because it was up to 1934,
right,
and then it just stopped. So
so
we're confused as to how that happened, and then
nothing. So along comes the Depression after he's buried his first wife in 1929. I didn't give you one, I'm sorry. I
That's all right, no, it's
I
fine,
gave
yeah,
you- I
yeah.
gave you the picture, but not the, and so we hit the Depression.
Yeah,
At the point of the Depression, the police salaries were cut in half. And if you ask someone from the Depression, like my father, he would have said he was a lucky man to have a job.
yeah.
But his salary was cut in half. And 1929, he married Esther McLaughlin Nolan, and they had 3 children, 1930, 1932, and 1934. And in between, they bought the house up on Harrington Avenue in West Concord.
Yep.
Again, you buy a house, the tax guy knows exactly where you live. There's no question about it. Still accessible by the town for billing purposes of any kind. I'm sure if I owed a nickel, they'd be on my doorstep saying, where's the nickel? So that was another perspective that we were looking at. Now, in 1940, the perpetual care billing ended. And it was World War II in 1941 began. So that's understandable. You're coming out of the Depression, you're suddenly into World War II. As Trish had said, David's father died in 1957. Fred Nolan Jr. died in 1957, result of a car accident. David's father died in 1971, Fred Nolan Sr., and his mother died in 1974. Nothing was ever said to the family. All the children were alive except Fred Jr. To be billed, we all lived locally. It wasn't like we scattered around the world. We all lived locally, very locally. We were all in communication with each other during these years, but nothing came about. So this, what I was told or I understood was in 1986, they decided to do a new fee on the cemetery plots, but the families were not notified. So we didn't know anything about it, and here we are today. So I don't know what to say. The picture that I have here is hanging in the Concord Police Department's wall as you go in of this group of group of policemen, including Fred Nolan. So he's well known. There's a bill floating around that nobody knows about. And here we are today. So he was a policeman for 32 years. He lived off Harrington Avenue for 41 years. Where are we? We're going back 94 years with this situation. And you're looking at us saying, oh, you owe money, you owe money. I didn't know a thing. All we were going to do was we were doing, as you said, fixing up the family plot and putting footstones in for his mother and father to make the grave look nice, bringing in loom, doing that type of thing, improving it, because we're going to be there. And our age is that we're preparing for the inevitable, shall we say. So here we are, and we have a problem.
Well, thank you very much. It's a very interesting presentation, but this can't be the first time this has happened.
No.
So how do we resolve this? I mean, what do we do? I don't know.
That's up to you guys. It has come up until late 80s, 89, 90, they were allowing it, or 88 even, they were allowing interments to happen in the lots that weren't paid for.
Yeah.
The committee decided, somebody brought it to their attention sometime in the 80s that over 300 lots aren't paid for, and we're allowing interments to happen in them, and that's when the committee decided, okay, no more interments in lots that have money due on them. So in that time, and I started in 87, so it was right around that same time when we started doing this. I remember people paying for just one grave, so they could use that, just one grave, and not worry about the rest. But that ended pretty quickly. And in every instance that this has come up in, the families have paid.
Now, the fee that was requested from us is $2,000.
Current amount of perpetual care that we're selling
And
lots
if we
for.
decided to choose to buy another lot, the fee I was told was $1,800.
Per single grave. So a 2-grave lot in the new section for you to purchase as a former resident would be $3,600. So the equivalent would be more.
Okay, I wasn't figuring. per
Times
grave.
2, yeah, times 2.
So here we are.
So what you're trying to do is get the fee waived fundamentally.
Well, it's
Amended.
amended,
Waived.
waived, whatever you want to say.
We thought it was, when we heard about this, that it would have been waived due to the fact that my father was 32 years on the police force and that kind of thing, that it was just dropped. But obviously not.
And we did not know about it. We lived locally. My parents were alive. My mother died in 2008. And they were both avid readers, and they went through the Concord Journal and they went to the town papers.
Yeah.
They were avid readers. They knew more about what was going on around them in as far as paper and the town. They knew more about the town than I would ever know. And there was their pride and joy. My grandfather came here and started in his 20s. And my father would be over 100 years old at this point, and my grandfather, I don't know, would be beyond that. And this old house just did their house over on Monument Street that my father grew up on. And that was fascinating to see, because going in there, because I was a small child, and going in there and seeing that. And David grew up off Harrington Avenue. I grew up on Walden Terrace. So we're, walked to the Elk Park. You're talking about the Elk Park School.
Yeah.
I remember when it was big hills.
Yeah, I do, yeah. So do any of the committee members want to make some comments or get in this discussion? Does anyone want to make a motion, or what should we do? I just don't know.
Well, I'm ready for discussion or questions, I guess. I would recommend. Okay, for questions?
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess the thing that comes to mind for me is why mail that was being delivered and not returned, I mean, and lost or went into some black hole. I was thinking maybe what happened with the post office that
They were getting some of the bills back. We don't have any in your case, but we do have some of the bills that we're getting returned.
okay.
And they continue billing for a number of years, and after a while, they would just stop because obviously the people were gone, not at that address anymore. But no other effort, from what I can tell, no other
there's
effort
no
was made
effort.
to try to find out where they went, or there's instances, honestly, there's instances where we continued to bill a deceased person that we had interred.
As
There
with
wasn't
May.
any communication, I don't think, between whoever was running the cemetery at the time and whoever was doing the billing
And
weren't
they didn't
necessarily
have
working together.
the quote unquote, the
I don't know.
internet to.
It was
help
probably my
everybody.
father, you know?
Yeah.
I might have to excuse myself from it.
Yes,
But my father ran the cemetery before his kids, so.
Oh, okay.
But,
Leo,
yeah,
I guess, so to kind of, do the Nolans have a specific request that can be the basis for a motion? Is there a specific request that they're here to make?
In my letter that I wrote the cemetery committee, Dave's brother is buried up at the cemetery, and he would like to be buried next to his brother.
He means monetarial.
Monetarial?
Yeah. And I was thinking that some kind of a compromise possibly could be made because there was no effort on the part of the cemetery committee back then to, they could have gone to the Board of Assessors. My father was in town all those years, and there was no effort whatsoever to find him. And I don't know what would be reasonable, but I'd like something reasonable that we could decide on.
is there some statute of limitation or something like that on this? Does that happen? I mean, it's like they're getting billed for something, but then they didn't get the bill for what, 94 years or whatever. It seems like.
From the beginning, well, the first burial was in 1928.
Yeah,
And they did get bills, went to the wrong address, but
Yeah.
eventually somebody said, oh, this belongs to Fred Nolan, and ran it over to his house.
yeah.
That's how he got the bill, obviously.
I don't know, it was paid for until 1934.
Right, so
So
somebody
the
was
argument
saying,
is they weren't getting the bills, but they were getting the care. The lots were maintained. Long ago, you've probably seen the little perpetual care signs.
Yeah,
Those lots were maintained. The ones that didn't have those signs were not.
okay. So
That's
I
not
guess,
the case anymore. We just.
I guess what the community's asking is, can you give us, some deal that you want us to vote on, and we'll vote on. Is that what you're asking for?
Well, yeah, again, no disputation of whatever happened in the past. The whole thing sounds, the whole process of dealing with this perpetual fee and all that stuff has gone through a lot of iterations. That's that. Again, the question is, what are the Nolans? There's an outstanding bill, or there's a charge of $2,000 on the table. What are the Nolans asking for?
Want to split it and just say $1,000?
it's up to you, it's your family.
I would propose that, could we settle it by paying you $1,000?
All right, so that's the request, and then back to the chair.
Okay, we have a request before us for a change in this fee to $1,000, and who wants to make a motion to accept this? Nobody wants to make a motion to accept it?
I'll make a motion to accept. I'll make a motion on the Nolan's offer that the board accept it. That's the motion before the board.
We have a second.
Second.
Rebecca seconds it. Okay, so let's take a vote on this. Brian.
May we have a discussion before we do that, Leo, please?
Okay, yeah.
Thank you. First of all, many thanks to the Nolan family. I feel very badly that you're going through this, and my apologies that this is what you're going through. So please just listen to what I have to say in the context of us thinking about what this means for future families, not with respect to the merits of your request. I at least would like to think about what the impact is going to be and whether or not we're establishing some kind of a precedent before we make a decision. I'd like to discuss that, notwithstanding the merits of the Nolan's presentation and the circumstances and everything else. So I would like to understand, from Aaron and from Tish, what the impact is from the committee in terms of a precedent, and if we agree to this or if we disagree with it. I'd like to understand what the ramifications are. And again, to the folks here who are making this presentation, that has nothing to do with the merits of the correctness or the accuracy of the information or the merits of your request. I just might want to have a discussion about precedents before we make a decision, and give us a chance to think about it. Unfortunately, for your perspective, unfortunately, we do have to think about what other families might, act on as a basis, using our decision as a basis today. So I also have been in front of committees where I wanted an immediate answer, and I know it's very frustrating not to get an immediate answer. So my apologies for that. But I do want to bring that up for the rest of the committee to consider.
So Rod, I think Tish, from what I can see, she just stepped out of the room. But Tish had mentioned that at some point, 30 plus years ago, the committee at that time decided to not inter. Tish, I'm just answering the question that Rod asked about, precedent and where we at. So the reason that this is before the committee right now is that as staff, we are not going to waive a fee. So that's essentially like somebody buying a lot today and saying they don't want to pay perpetual care. We would not do that. They would require that. So there is a list of lots that we have that fall into this category that were purchased at some point in the past that they had not been, paid in their full dues of perpetual care up to a level of whatever was required at that time. And as staff receive requests to inter in those lots, right, we go back, we review the law card, it's flagged saying that there's a balance due on the account essentially, and will not inter anyone until that is paid. The reason it's before here is because the Nolan family's requesting that be waived.
Yes, and may I follow up the question? Is there any instance in the history of the cemetery where a discount has been provided or a waiver has been provided for a fee?
Not to my knowledge. No. Not
Okay.
since the school has been implemented, no.
Okay, so that's not to say whether we're going to do it or not, but we are. If we do provide some kind of a waiver, then we establish a new precedent, and we want to think about that. We just want to think about it. Okay. Little did you know that you'd be potentially establishing a new precedent, sir. So again, it's something that we just have to think about and make sure that whatever we do, it's fair, not only to you, but also to everyone else that may be in this circumstance.
I do have one thing, Tish, I don't mean to put you on the spot question. Do you know roughly how many of these do we have outstanding still that could potentially come before the committee in the future?
Over 300.
And what's the total fiscal impact of that? Is it like $300,000
I've
or
never figured it out, Leo.
$3,000?
I've never figured it out.
Yeah.
300,000 to 600,000.
What's that?
That would be a big job.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And how often does this come up?
So since I've been here, since 1987, probably 25 times. And it's usually, honestly, it's either because somebody calls and they're doing pre-planning, which is best case scenario. A lot of times it's because somebody calls to plan an interment
Yeah,
because there's been a death. And then I'm saying to them, sorry, we can't do this funeral in 2 days until this money's paid. And it gets paid.
Boy. It's a lot, I'm supposed to say. You know, do you have any feelings on it? What do you think you should do? I mean, I don't know.
So,
Okay, yeah.
you have a motion before the board. Is there something we need to do about it?
Right.
Yes.
Do you
Okay,
want
so-
us to step out of the room? It would move.
Or do
forward?
you-
No, I don't think that's necessary. No, we're just we're kind of cocky. We don't exactly.
Right.
But you
It
see the
is, it's part of the
situation.
regulations. It is part of the regulations.
And so when
This
we
rule
have
is
to
part
get
of the
it,
regulations. If, and anybody can come to the committee to amend any of the regulations, anything
Yeah.
that's in the guidebook that we have, I guess. So I don't know that you'd have to change anything, but authorizing one compromise would open the door for any other compromises. Doesn't
Yeah.
come up all that often, but it would open the door.
okay, so Jerry, you put a motion forward, right?
And Rebecca seconded.
Rebecca seconded, so, and Aaron, we're all right with this. We got the authority to do this.
So one last discussion, again, not on the merits of the request, but I'm going to vote nay to the motion and put in a request that we take this under advisement so that we can have a discussion about, helping this family, but also making sure that we don't do any damage to this cemetery in terms of, setting up a circumstance where people flood the office and say, well, you made a exception here in this case, and so why not make an exception for the fee, that sort of thing. So I just want to explore that, but I'd also like to see if there's some way that we can help Nolans too. And I apologize, but I'm not ready to make a decision one way or the other. Right now, I'd like to think about it and come back in June and with some kind of, a comprehensive and definitive response to your request, which I think is it's very reasonable, but I don't know that we are able to agree. I'm not able to agree to this request at
Well,
this time.
I think,
Yeah.
Rod, I think
Yeah.
your mechanism, since there's a motion that's
Yeah.
been seconded, I think the mechanism available to you,
It's the
other
same nay. Yeah.
speaking before, a motion's made, is to abstain. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you.
Okay, I think I'm just going to say no at this time, and then put it back and say, well, what do we do if we don't agree to it, and then go forward from there, Jerry. But it's if we don't have a quorum, I guess we don't have a quorum either. So
What are you saying no to?
to agreeing to the amount of money that the Nolans have proposed, which is less than the fee, which I thought was the motion. Is that? Did I misunderstand the motion?
No, that's the
The motion.
Yeah. That's what I would say no to, not at this time. Yeah.
So the next step is for the chair to call the roll.
Brian, you have any comments?
I'm probably more towards the Rod camp than for the approval. So I'd probably be a nay if this is a straw poll. Again, I appreciate the Nolan story, but I do think that there is precedent, and I would just say that the perpetual care fee, we'll take care of your burial for as long as humanity exists here in Concord. So it is money well spent. But again, just in regards to the precedent and that other families have paid that fee and other families will have to pay the fee. And I would hate to go on a case-by-case basis because I'm sure everybody has a good argument for themselves. I would probably be a no at this point.
Well,
Pardon?
pardon? Can you abstain? We can abstain, right?
Oh, again, I'm not a Robert's Rules of Order or, open town meeting order expert by any means, but from where I sit, you've got a motion that's been seconded. And the motion is to accept or not accept the Nolan's request to cut the fee from the amount due from 2,000 to 1,000. That's what you got in front of you.
Okay, well, my comment is, the man was a cop for all those years, and resident all these years, and if the town didn't get the bill to him, I kind of go with the Nolans here, but I don't think we can, we can justify this without seeing what the other repercussions are from it. So I think we should take the vote, and you can either vote yay, nay, or abstain. Is that correct? Yeah, that's correct. Okay, I'm the boss. Okay. Brian Davidson,
So I would be a nay to this motion.
Rebecca Purcell,
Abstain.
okay, Rod Rydell,
A nay to the motion.
Jerry Susie,
No,
Leo Carroll, yay.
Okay.
So what do we have? We didn't get the yay, we didn't get the nay, so we'll come up and we'll bring it up at the next meeting after we have a chance to do some research. And I think what's important is we understand the fiscal repercussions of this. And if someone in the future is going to try to get a waiver on that fee, if they have, a story like you've got, they should come here and do this. If there's only 300 lots left with this. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think there were like 352 the first time I counted, so there's
Yeah.
less than that now. I mean,
Yeah,
quite a few lots are,
Yeah,
and some we'll never hear from. There's notes on some saying gone to Norway.
yeah,
We're never gonna hear from that family, more than likely.
yeah.
They've been gone for 100 years, they're probably never coming back. I
I'm
don't know.
kind of thinking these guys, the last one's up at bad anyway. That's my thinking on it, but, okay,
So just to be clear, just so I have an understanding from a staff perspective, so obviously there's a request that was made that was not approved by the cemetery committee. And to Tish's comments earlier, this is in the rules and regulations. This is a practice that, it's a cemetery regulation. So is that just for instruction for me moving forward, does the cemetery committee want to review that rule and regulation, or we're just going to move on and require the Nolans to pay $2,000 before we inter anybody?
okay, that's very good, Aaron. I think the best thing that could happen is you'll send us all that section of the rules and regulation that has gotten us to this situation we're in right now.
Okay,
And then we can make an informed decision about, should we change the regulation or what we should do next. I understand both sides of the argument, maybe there's like, $100,000 is gonna be lost or something like that, but I'm telling you, if I get a note for something that happened in 1930, and this is the first I've heard of it, I think I'd be, kind of upset about it myself. So let's try to find some solution to this. And then we'll vote on it next meeting.
what do you vote? Just for clarification, what do you want to vote on for the next meeting?
Well, should we change the regulations? Right now, it's my understanding that you can't,
Can't authorize an interment or place a stone on a lot that doesn't have all the perpetual care fees paid.
right.
Yeah,
And that those two stones, mom and dad, or whatever we were going to do, is gonna cost us over $1,000 to do it. And we were just trying to better the lot.
Yeah,
That's all we were doing. We wanted to grass and do it taken to it and put the stones up and just as a bill for Acton Memorial. So over $1,000 to do that. But they have to write on those stones and that's what's costing the money. You know.
I think we need to take a look at those regulations. Everyone on the committee, think about them a little bit and see if there's some thing we can do about it. This is a terrible situation. I could just see myself getting into the situation, getting upset about it. So I don't think there's gonna be many more of these cases in the future, you know? And if there's only 300, 350 as it is right now, it's not gonna break the bank, I don't think, so. But let's look at the regulations and bring this up again next week. Is that all right with
That's
you?
fine.
Next month.
Okay. Next month, sorry.
I
Okay,
think we got it.
and with that, I think we've made our vote and we will probably see you next month. I'm hoping, okay. Yeah, okay, item D6, and we're running late here. Sorry about this. Committee members' comments. Who's got a comment to make? Anybody? Going once? Twice? Okay, no comments. How about public? Does public want to make any comments? No vote needed. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, all right. Okay, let's take a vote. Brian Davison,
Aye.
Rebecca Purcell,
Aye.
Rod Rydell,
aye.
Jerry Susi,
Aye.
Leo Carroll, aye. With that, the meeting is over.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. That's all right.
I just made, you want to take a couple cookies on your.
They have
way
been
home?
driving me